Hi, I'm gonna get right to it. Okay, I am wearing a shirt. If I go down like this, it doesn't mean I'm not wearing anything. It's just way too hot to wear something else. So I'm gonna go back to my foster care story. If you missed the last couple of videos, I encourage you to go back to my feed and watch them. And as you remember, or not, my story last week was when it was the summer before grade 7, and my mom had put me outside, and I went to the neighbors, and then I got brought to my grandparents' place. In the video, I think I mentioned that I had lived with the streets, but that wasn't this year. It was actually the following year. So after I'd slept in the backyard, went inside, next day went to my grandparents' place. I'm not sure how long it took for them to find me a foster home in Peterborough, but they finally found me one. And I'm not going to mention their particular names. I'm not sure that they would appreciate it. So it was a single mother, who I'll call Big J, and her daughter, who I'll call Little J, and the son. So Little J was the same age. I don't know whose bright idea it was to put a preteen in the same foster home as the biological preteen. It wasn't as bad as some people's situations, but it definitely was not the situation I wanted to be in. We bashed heads right from the beginning. She was a self-entitled, spoiled brat, and I'm sorry if she sees this someday, that's what she was. CAS would give some money to help support the foster home to take care of me, and I was always quite aware with how little money that was, because she was getting all of her designer clothes and furniture for her room, and anytime that I asked for something small, I was told that I was selfish. And when we went shopping for coats, I was the one who had to get the crappy purple shiny coat from the sale rack, whereas Little J was able to get whatever she wanted, the bomber jacket that was the biggest thing at the time. And I just felt so left out. There was even one time when we were left babysitting the little brother, and he managed to cut himself, and I was blamed and I still remember the foster mom, Big J, literally saying that because her daughter was older than me, that she would get her period before me, and that meant that she was more mature than me. Even then, I knew that was crap. I was there for 6 months, and there were times where I thought things were being stolen from my room. I would set up a little string at the top of my door so I would know when I came home from school if Little J had been in my room, and she had. But I couldn't tell her mom, because her mom wouldn't believe anything. I didn't want to go home, but I also didn't want to be where I was. I was having supervised access with my mom, who was in and out of hotel rooms. I think I saw her maybe 3 or 4 times over the next 6 months. And because I was placed in the summer, we skipped forward to about December. And I remember sitting in the Peterborough Square McDonald's food court with my social worker, and she was looking across the table, and she asked me if I wanted to go home. At the time, I wasn't very good at speaking up for myself. I did not want to go back to that foster home. I was fed, and I had a roof over my head, and I'm very grateful that I was taken in, but they really should not have taken in somebody the same age as their preteen daughter. It was a disaster. I was told later by Peggy, my social worker, that it was because I didn't say anything at that time that I was sent home. So I was in that foster home for 6 months, and then my social worker went to court, and then I was mandated to go home. I think it was middle of January. I was terrified. But I was very grateful to not live in that house anymore. And the funny thing is about that story is that 3 days before I was set to move out, I got my period. And it was before her. So I came downstairs and I was a little worried. I kind of knew what it was, but I was kind of scared. You know how you are when that first happens? Well, some of you. And I went to Big J and I told her I got my period. And she just looked at me and I could see the disappointment in her face because little J hadn't had it yet. And of course, if she's an adult that believes that her daughter's more mature just because of a menstrual cycle is retarded. Sorry, I shouldn't use that word. Is really, really silly. She just looked at me and said, well, you know where the supplies are. So anyway, I thought that was kind of funny just because she had said that. So then I went home and my mom at the time was only able to get a 1-bedroom apartment. And I'm going to continue this story because things didn't really get better over the next 6 months. They really, really petered off. This was the end of grade 7, and I was with my mom for another little while until I got brought back into care. And I'll tell you that story next week. Thanks for watching.